about the important benefits of stretching. So I did a video before about stretching, and I really got to the conclusion about BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, and stretching. I talked about it. I didn't really experience it. I've been stretching before my workouts, and I want to report on what I found. So as many of you probably already know, some of you don't know, I'm a triathlete. I was hit by a car, and mysteriously I lost feeling on that left side of my body. And I used to walk with a severe limp. I had a cane at one point in time. Now, through series of iterations, I've progressed to the point where I don't limp as much. And I found, though, that stretching really helps a lot. And here's what I found. So I'm going to try to keep it short, to the point, and there's 3 things I want to talk about. Well, through doing research, I discovered that stretching activates the mechanoreceptors in the muscles and tendons, which send signals to the brain and spinal cord. These signals in turn trigger the release of neurotrophic factors, such as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. There are other neurotrophic factors, but I wanted to understand BDNF specifically. Here's what I understand so far. So I wanted to understand what BDNF is, how it's created, so that I can create more of it, or I can keep more of it coming. I want to understand the dynamics so that I can understand what to do and what not to do. So there's this thing called glycosylation, right? Glycosylation and proteolytic cleavage are 2 important processes involved in the synthesis of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. BDNF is a protein that plays a crucial role in the development and the function of the nervous system. Glycosylation refers to the process of adding sugar molecules to proteins, while proteolytic cleavage involves the breaking down of proteins into smaller fragments. So in this video, we'll define and describe these 2 processes and articulate their role in the synthesis of BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Glycosylation is a post-translational modification that occurs in the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus of the cell. Now, here's a picture of the cell. You'll see the endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus in this cell. I got this picture from Wikipedia. It involves the addition of sugar molecules. So glycosylation is a post-translational modification that occurs in the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus of the cell. It involves the addition of sugar molecules to specific amino acid residues in the protein. This modification can affect the protein stability, solubility, and activity. Now, later on, I'm going to describe what post-translational modification is, right? But on to the proteolytic cleavage, though. Proteolytic cleavage, on the other hand, involves the breaking down of proteins into smaller fragments by enzymes called proteases. This process can regulate the activity and function of proteins. So there's 2 concepts. Glycosylation, right? That's basically sugars is needed to transport something from one place to another, right? And then there's proteolytic cleavage. Now, you may already understand one form of proteolytic cleavage, which is exercise, right? There is some evidence to suggest that exercise may facilitate proteolytic cleavage in humans. One study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that exercise increased the expression of certain proteases in muscle tissue, which may contribute to the breakdown of proteins during exercise. This is the source Glover et al. 2010. Another study published in the Journal of Proteome Research found that acute exercise led to changes in the proteome of skeletal muscle, including an increase in proteolytic enzymes. Lundby et al. 2012. So now you know. So glycosylation, right, and proteolytic cleavage are 2 important processes involved in this. This is a brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is a protein that plays a crucial role in the development and function of the nervous system, right? So now we know the body needs carbohydrates and exercise. So the carbohydrates is glycosylation, and exercise is proteolytic cleavage, right? In my opinion, this may suggest that a strict carnivore or ketogenic diet may not always be the best solution for some. At best, it may be a rather short-term solution until inflammation is under control. I should also say that when I say carbohydrates, it is carbohydrates, but not an excess of carbohydrates, right? So you need to consume carbohydrates, but not in excess. I believe when you consume in excess, anything in excess, it can be bad news, right? Especially carbohydrates can lead to a lot of inflammation. Now, I have a free ebook that I wrote a couple years ago that talks about keto adapting. Now, I'm going to define post-translational modification. We're talking about glycosylation as being a post-translational modification that occurs in the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus of the cells. Well, post-translational modification is pretty interesting, right? Post-translational modification, I'll refer to it as PDMs. Post-translational modifications are covalent modifications that occur to proteins after they've been synthesized from their corresponding genes. Here, the word covalent refers to the formation of a chemical bond between two atoms by sharing of electrons, right? Just like you learned in chemistry. In the case of PDMs, covalent bonds are formed between a protein molecule and a small molecule, such as a phosphate group, a sugar, a lipid, or another protein molecule. So covalent modifications can alter the structure, function, and activity of proteins and can affect their stability, localization, and interactions with other molecules. For example, this post-translational modification, right? That's what it is, or the modifications that occur to proteins after they've been synthesized from their corresponding genes, right? So you have the gene, and you have this protein, and then it can change form from one form to another form through these covalent bonds, right? There are many types of PTMs, including phosphorylation, glycosylation, acetylation, methylation, ubiquitination, and proteolytic cleavage, among others. PTMs are typically catalyzed by enzymes that recognize specific amino acid residues in the protein and can be reversible or irreversible. They're critical for the regulation of many cellular processes, including cell signaling, gene expression, metabolism, cell division, for example. Dysregulation of PTMs can lead to various diseases such as cancer, neurodegenerative diseases or disorders, and metabolic disorders. Overall, PTMs are a key mechanism by which cells regulate protein function and signaling and are essential for normal cellular function and homeostasis. Now I'm going to repeat this again. Glycosylation is a post-translational modification that occurs in the endoplasmic reticulum and Golgi apparatus of cells. It involves the addition of sugar molecules, specific amino acid residues on a protein. This modification can affect the protein's stability, solubility, and activity, right? Proteolytic cleavage, on the other hand, involves the breaking down of proteins into smaller fragments by enzymes called proteases. This process can regulate the activity and function of proteins, right? So there's two things going on. You have this protein that's generated from our genetic code, right? And your genes help produce this protein, and then there are other processes in your body that change this protein into something else. And some of the dysregulation of these post-translational modifications can lead to disorders and diseases like cancer or neurodegenerative disorders or metabolic disorders, right? So glycosylation and proteolytic cleavage are two important processes involved in the synthesis of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is a protein that plays a crucial role in the development and function of the nervous system. So this video was to explain that stretching yields brain-derived neurotrophic factor, right? And these are the sort of things that lead to nervous system health or wellness in the domain of the nervous system, right? These are the things that when you read or you watch videos, people talk about how your nervous system needs to repair itself and all this other stuff. Many times I believe people leave out stretching. People typically talk about, sleep and staying off the coffee. People talk about serotonin and dopamine and all this other stuff. No one ever talks about stretching. perhaps this is why yoga is so good, right? Perhaps this is why yoga is such an old practice that has paid off benefits. And this is probably why, um, some people stretch a lot. Like when I played football, the better I stretched beforehand, before exercise, the better I felt after practice, right? Um, there's no doubt in my mind that stretching is one thing you can do to combat aging. Anyway, that's it for this video. It's been a long video. I'm reading my notes and I'm looking at my sources verbatim to make sure I get everything correct because I want to present the most concise and understandable content out there. And I want to describe one concept so that it's easy to understand. Anyway, that's it for this video. If you want help reaching your wellness goals, if you want help reaching your fitness goals, there's resources in this video and on this channel and at iHeartGains.com. If you want help from me, I have 2 coaching programs. Check them out at iHeartGains.com. I'm Smitty. I hope you reach your fitness goals and talk to you next.